Imagine yourself as a phoenix, rising from the ashes with the brilliance it takes to become part of this world-renowned university. If you clicked here because you're applying to and want to get into the University of Chicago, well, you've come to the right place. Let's start with those one-of-a-kind UChicago essays. Here are a few prompts from prior years. Exponents and square roots, pencils and erasers, beta decay and electron capture. Name two things that undo each other and explain why both are necessary. Invent a new unit of measurement. How is it derived? How is it used? What are its equivalents? There are unwritten rules that everyone follows or has heard at least once in their life. But of course, some rules should be broken or updated. What's an unwritten rule that you wish didn't exist? And then there's this one, find X. Why use these strange prompts? The answer is simple. More than anything else, UChicago is looking for authenticity and curiosity. Don't believe me? Well, look no further than UChicago's very own admissions site. They specifically wrote, "We care about you and who you really are, not what you think we want to see in an application." Now, in order to show this authenticity, we're gonna need lots and lots of this. You guessed it, voice. But this begs another question. How do I showcase voice? What are the elements of good voice? Honestly, it all boils down to diction or word choice. So if you usually write less formally, go for it. Use clever punctuation? Yes, use clever punctuation. And incomplete sentences. 2. Why not? Feel free to write the way that you actually talk in real life. You know, some students, they go for a much more conversational friendly tone, while still others go for a more humorous, erudite one. A lot of students, they ask us how to make your essay sound fundamentally unique. This is the answer. This is how you come up with something no one else could replicate, both in terms of your content and specifically your style. Nailing down voice is honestly, it's kind of tricky. So to help you guys out, here's an example of a paragraph from one of our students we worked with in the past who got into UChicago. Don't ask me why, but he chose this prompt. This was what our marvelous student wrote. A Santa lived as a devil at NASA. The fabled story of Santa Claus has long been ingrained in the tradition and spirit of Christmas. But many doubt his existence, dismissing his expression of generosity as a collective effort made by dedicated parents across the globe. As you can see, this student chose to begin with a much more intellectual tone, but then italicized the word parent for humor. The possibilities are truly endless, but the most important thing is to treat these essays like a creative, nonfiction writing assignment, not your typical college application essay. On to curiosity. Similar to Columbia, UChicago really prizes all kinds of curiosity. Both schools are actually kind of similar in that they both offer core curriculums. Why? Because they want you to explore different fields of interest as opposed to specializing like a bug. But Kev, how do we showcase this intellectual curiosity? By talking about how you take advantage of these unique UChicago offerings, like this Art to Live With program. Have you ever wanted to check out the works of Picasso, Eleanor Cohen, or Marc Chagall? With Art to Live With, UChicago students can actually borrow works of art from the university's Smart Museum of Art during the school year. Now, I don't know about you, but I know exactly which painting I would borrow. Not only that, but UChicago boasts some pretty funny traditions as well. If you've ever wanted to bike backwards or find the statue of King Kong in Oklahoma, you're in luck. SCAV, the college's beloved 30-year-old annual scavenger hunt, is a 72-hour search for hundreds of encrypted clues, riddles, and seemingly impossible items on campus in Chicago and even across the country. But back to showcasing curiosity. Let's take this made-up student, Nadia, for example. Since she was a wee little middle schooler, Nadia has been fascinated by Komodo dragons, which are native to her home in Indonesia. So, while meditating on a beach, Nadia started to wonder, why are they endangered? How can scientists improve conservation strategies to protect these majestic creatures? Nadia started to pursue research with a mentor from her local lab and eventually co-authored a paper on Komodo dragons' lifespans. If Nadia were applying to the University of Chicago, you can bet she should elaborate on her work with this endangered species in her essays. In fact, She specifically applied for the environment, geography, and urbanization major because it pertained to her passion for biodiversity and wildlife conservation. She could also contribute to the scavenger hunt by 3D printing a Komodo dragon and then hiding it somewhere for underclassmen to go find. What is the takeaway from Nadia's story? In order to showcase and prove your curiosity in your application, connect how what you will do at UChicago is an extension of what you've already done. In that first required UChicago essay, you can mention very specific courses or clubs that relate to your academic interests, extracurriculars, or passion projects that you've completed in high school. I know it sounds pretty straightforward, but something I have to stress is the importance of research here. A great place to talk about all this would be in this UChicago prompt. For this particular prompt, my recommendation is to investigate, look into those unique, one-of-a-kind programs only offered at UChicago. For instance, did you know that they offer a Norwegian Studies minor or a Big Problems program, which asks real questions like, are we doomed? And is drinking alcohol a social problem? Calling all non-STEM people, there's finally a STEM major for you. The History, Philosophy, and Social Studies of Science and Medicine major, or HIPS for short, is a program that dives into the scientific advancements we've already made. If you're planning on pursuing science policy, law, public health, definitely mention how this major can help propel you into your dream job. 2 more college application hacks. The UChicago students are known for being extremely hardworking, but there are also many unique traditions where students can let loose after some tough exam. Kubia, named after both the Inuit word for pursuit of happiness and the Japanese tradition of winter training, is a week-long festival where students wake up at dawn and participate in yoga, s'mores, and dance classes. Returning back to our made-up friend, Nadia. You may have heard of therapy dogs, but what about therapy reptiles? For someone like Nadia, this would be the perfect creative initiative. She could mention how she helps rehabilitate local lizards, then shows them off to classmates who could use some cheering up to take their mind off of final stress. Remember this, admission officers aren't just evaluating your profile, but imagining how you can contribute to the student body. Articulate how you would fit in by showing where you've demonstrated a positive impact on your community in quirky, fun, and unconventional ways. Last tip. Connect your application to outer Chicago. Just like other colleges, UChicago does not exist in isolation. It integrates itself into the community through various initiatives. So before you start writing, dig deep into the culture and roots of the city of Chicago, from its flourishing improv comedy scene to its colors, music, art, and spirit. I mean, this is a city that has a Broadway musical named after it, so there's a lot you can work with here. In your essays, mention your research on all these initiatives and how you can contribute to them if or when you're accepted to UChicago. So if you're an English major, maybe you can start by talking about after-school poetry workshops that you would host for students from the South Side, where they can write about what it's like being a Chicago native. See the pattern here? It's all about demonstrating what you've done, what UChicago has that you want, and what you can bring to UChicago. As always, I hope this helped. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. It really goes a long way. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.